These UFO sightings aren't like the rest. These are the top 5 unexplained mass alien sightings.
Number 5. The Lights of the New Jersey Turnpike. The Lights of the New Jersey Turnpike has been called one of the top 5 most credible sightings in the modern era of UFO reporting. The sighting happened on July 14, 2001, in the sky above the New Jersey Turnpike. A strange light appeared, out of nowhere, that was so bright it caused people to pull over in their cars. In fact, it's estimated that 75 vehicles sat on the side of the road that night to bear witness to the unexplained lights. The lights were described by witnesses as V-shaped, bright, and unusual. But even more unnerving is the people that saw the lights testified that there was a strong emotion associated with the lights. People described an overwhelming feeling of peace and calm. There have been other cases of strange sightings that have also caused strong emotions, but the lights of the New Jersey Turnpike seem to have had an especially strong emotional pull. Even years later, when people talk about their experience or retell their story, they become very emotional. They explain that even the memory of those lights still triggers the same emotional response even years later. So what were the lights? There has not, to this day, been any sort of plausible explanation. Number 4. The Houston, Texas UFO. On August 11, 2014, hundreds of people bore witness to a strange, unidentified flying object in the sky above Houston, Texas. The object was also accompanied by a strange ring of blinking lights. The sighting happened during a lightning storm, and witnesses claimed that they saw a UFO hovering in the horizon. People were quick to take out their cameras and snap pics of the strange object and lights in the sky. From there, the incident blew up on social media as people posted their pics on Twitter and Facebook. A particularly good video was shot by a local Houston musician named Andrew Pena. Pena was able to capture some of the best footage as he filmed the strange lights while traveling down Interstate 45. Due to the popularity of the incident, the Texas UFO was investigated by Chief Investigator for the UFO Network. He quickly refuted the claims, though. The incident took place only 12.5 miles away from the Johnson Space Center, so critics have suggested that it was NASA. NASA had recently been testing out their low-density supersonic decelerator. So is that what people saw? NASA never confirmed that their aircraft was in the vicinity, though. Other possible explanations have included an unmanned drone, a weather balloon, or lights from a stadium. However, the strange object and the lights of August 11, 2014 remain an unsolved mystery. Number 3. The Tinley Park Lights. The Tinley Park Lights, as they have been called, are a strange series of lights that have actually made several unexplained appearances. The Tinley Park Lights are credible, as hundreds of people saw these lights. Furthermore, the description of the lights is congruent across a multitude of places and people, and there has been little offered as a counter-explanation. The first time the lights appeared was on August 21, 2004. People who recount the event remember that it was a beautiful August evening with clear skies, and because it was such a lovely night, hundreds of people were outside when the lights appeared. Furthermore, the lights coincided with an Ozzy Osbourne concert, so hundreds, if not thousands of people were on their way home from the concert. Witnesses all agree that there were 3 lights and that the lights formed a triangular pattern. The lights were unusual, and they moved together, completely in unison with one another. People claim that the lights hovered for about 30 minutes before they disappeared. People also claim that there was absolutely no sound that accompanied the lights. And although that weren't strange enough, this was apparently only a debut appearance. The same lights were seen again 71 days later on Halloween. From there, 2 more mass sightings were reported, one on October 1, 2005, and another on Halloween again in 2006. Because so many people bore witness to these lights, the lights of Tinley Park have garnered a lot of media attention. The lights of Tinley Park were even featured on an episode of History Channel's UFO Hunters. The lights have never been explained, making the lights of Tinley Park one of the largest unexplained UFO sightings in history. Number 2. The Westfall UFO, Australia. The Westfall UFO is one of Australia's most popular unexplained mass alien sightings. The incident took place on April 6, 1966 in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Students from the Westfall High School, along with their teacher, were outside around 11:30 a.m. taking part in a sports activity when they all noticed a strange object in the sky. They all stopped to watch the unidentified flying object, which hovered for around 20 minutes and then flew over the high school's southwest corner. From there, it made its way to an area called the Grange in front of the Westfall State School. By this time, more students and teachers had come outside to see the strange object. In fact, upwards of 200 students and teachers all bore witness to the same object. The object was described as a gray, saucer-shaped craft. People also claimed that it had an eerie, slightly purple hue and that it was about twice the size as a mid-sized car. Eventually, the object quickly took to the sky and disappeared. Some people claimed that the object was pursued by 5 other, smaller, unidentified objects, although not everyone claims to have seen these other objects. The incident was thoroughly investigated by 2 very respectable groups. The first was the Victorian Flying Saucer Research Society, and the second was Phenomenal Research Australia. The groups went to the location where the saucer had landed, and they reported seeing marks on the ground. There was a big round patch of flattened yellow grass with a strange, swirly pattern. The Victorian Flying Saucer Research Society printed a picture of these marks and published an article about the incident in their magazine, Australian UFO Bulletin. On April 9th, Brian Boyle of the Phenomenal Research Australia arrived with 4 investigators from the Army. They too conducted interviews and took samples from the ground. After conducting their respective research, both groups agreed that the Westfall UFO was one of Australia's major unexplained UFO events. And although skeptics have suggested that it was likely just some sort of experimental military craft, the case has remained unsolved. Number 1. The Stephenville Sightings. Few mass alien sightings have garnered as much attention as the Stephenville sightings of 2008. In fact, the Stephenville sightings remain one of the world's most controversial mass sightings. And furthermore, there seems to be a conspiracy surrounding these sightings that makes them all the more plausible. The incident took place on January 8, 2008. Residents of Stephenville saw an oddly shaped aircraft in the sky. But unlike other alleged UFO sightings, which are small and distant, the object described in the Stephenville sighting was massive. According to witnesses, the object was a large craft roughly the size of a football field. Witnesses also claimed that the object made no sound as it moved erratically through the air. Witnesses were concerned by its flight pattern, which seemed erratic and impossible for an object of that size. They claimed that it would move very quickly one moment, but then suddenly stop or slow down. More than 30 residents of Stephenville reported seeing this object, and every single one of them reported seeing the same thing. Because the object was so odd and the people were so adamant that it was an unidentified flying object, the incident quickly spread through the news. People tried to come up with plausible explanations, but there seemed to be none. It wasn't until weeks later, though, that the U.S. Air Force put out a statement declaring that they had been flying F-16s in the area. From there, a number of other strange things happened. Some residents claimed that they were approached by strange men in suits who appeared out of nowhere. These men told the residents, quote, not to talk about the incident. Furthermore, a number of journalists were stonewalled when they tried to write articles about the incident. This, of course, led people to believe that something was being covered up, which seemed to solidify the fact that the residents of Stephenville had, in fact, seen something unworldly that night. The Stephenville sightings and the bizarre events in the aftermath of the sightings makes it one of the most famous unexplained mass alien sightings of all time. Before we close out today's video, we have a couple honorable mentions that didn't make the list. Honorable mention. Honorable mention goes to a sighting that is far too credible to overlook. The USS Nimitz UFO incident took place in 2004 just off the shore of San Diego. It involved several members of the U.S. Navy. When the USS Princeton saw an odd aircraft on its radar, it contacted the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, who took 6 fighter jets out to investigate. Members of the USS Princeton claimed that the aircraft was appearing sporadically. The fighter pilots went out, and when they got to the location, they were shocked by what they saw. There were 2 strange objects, one in the water and one just above it. The one in the water was submerged just under the surface, and the one above the water appeared to be hovering. The objects were 24 to 30 feet long. They were white, pill-shaped, and they had no wings. Then, suddenly, the object that had been hovering abruptly flew away. The pilots contacted the USS Princeton, and the USS Princeton confirmed that yes, the objects had appeared on their radar. A total of 12 pilots saw these objects, but no one has been able to effectively explain what these objects were, leading the pilots to believe that they were clearly some sort of alien aircraft.